All right, so it looks like OpenAI just dropped a new model on, I won't say a new model, but a new feature for GPT-4o specifically. If you go to the top left-hand corner onto the drop-down, you'll see a new one that's called GPT-4o with Canvas, all right? So let's click on that really quickly. Nothing at first glance looks like it to be different. However, when you go over to the drop-down, you'll see a little note underneath that says collaborate on writing and code. Okay, and I've already got to play with it once, and my fiance, who works in artificial intelligence specifically, she gave me a little bit of a rundown of the features that 4o with Canvas has, and it's actually quite impressive. So before yapping, let's go ahead and start coding. All right, let's ask GPT to make me a quick component for Next.js. Off the top of my head, I would like to do perhaps a landing page, maybe a header. So I'll say, make me a Next.js 14 header for my landing page. All right, so nothing too complex. It should have, you know, a title, subtitle, a call to action, right? So with call to action and maybe some authentication on the top. Okay, maybe, and navigation bar with auth top right corner. Okay, so let's see what that outputs. I've never tried this, so let's see what it does. Right off the bat, so the difference between regular 4o and with Canvas is that you see that there's this notepad that pulls up very similarly to the way that Artifacts works, right? So with Artifacts, you ask it to code, and it pulls out this notepad on the bottom right, on the right side, where it outputs the code and you're able to preview. So that's the only con I'm seeing with this, is that there is no preview. So in that regards, I give more credit towards Sonnet 3.5 Artifacts, because it's able to give you the preview. On here, you're not able to necessarily see how the code looks. Another thing, it doesn't assume what kind of styling you're looking for. Here, it used more of a traditional CSS format, right? So just regular vanilla CSS. Whereas with something like Artifacts, it's quick to assume you want Tailwind, right? Which may or may not be a good thing for users that actually want to use that specific styling. But let's review the code really quickly. So it was able to give me a use state, right? So it's going to be a client component, which if you are working on the server, or you just want this to be a server component, you might need to change that out. So it gives you the use state effect here for the menu, right? So this is going to be for the nav bar, right? And then right here is the nav bar itself, giving you a variety of links within them. And then down here, you can see that there's the auth buttons, right? Login, sign up, and there's a call to action as well. Okay, and then each one of these has the class name. And you can see right here it says styles.signup, and then below is your styles for this header and nav bar. So now here's the really cool part about Canva GPT-4o with Canvas. And it's going to be actually on the bottom right corner. You'll see this drop pop-up that shows up, and you're going to see a variety of options. Let's start with the first one, add comments. So let's see when we click that, what it does for you. It's going to scan your code, and very quickly it's going to give you some comments all throughout your code, right? Which is good for scalability, right? You obviously want to make sure that you are pretty clear with what each section of your code does for other users. So off the bat, nothing there. Now let's go ahead and add logs. Logs is going to give you your console logs, right? So that if there are any errors, that it's going to show up on your console. So it was able to do it on the functions, and that should be it, right? Yeah, because there's no really any other function. All your functions are going to be on the top here. Lastly, fix bugs if there are any. Okay, I do see a couple of differences actually. So it was able to change out a few things. You can see right here, we did have a function, and that looks to have disappeared. So it wasn't pretty clear what it changed. I can see it personally, but in case you have a lot of code, you obviously want to specify. So let's ask it what it changed. What bugs did you fix? I said buzz. Upon review, I did not find any functional bugs in logic. It sounds the structure to be same. Interesting, because it did change the function, I believe. This was toggle open. Okay. So already a con. Well, actually, yeah, I'm going to go back here. Console. Okay, so let's look at the toggle menu. Okay. Oh, I see. So it just removed the console logs, but the use states remain the same. And then const toggle menu. Yeah, that remains the same. Okay, so yeah, it didn't actually find any bugs, but what it did end up doing was removing all the logs and the comments, which is kind of funny. So basically, it just undid what it had done itself. So there's already kind of a little bit of a discrepancy. I wish it would have kept those, especially if we had added those. So I guess notes itself, do not fix bugs first before you add any logs or comments. And then here's probably one of the biggest features that I'm a big fan of, and that is actually port to a language. And so we click on that. The current one is, of course, JavaScript, CSS, and standard Next.js formatting, HTML. However, when you click on this and you start to drag it up, you can see it changes to Python, C++, PHP, right? JavaScript, which technically it's already JavaScript, TypeScript, and Java. So let's go ahead and port this to a TypeScript file. Let's see what it does. And so now it's converting into a TS. There you go. It looks like it added a couple of TypeScript stuff that you can see on our use state. It added a Boolean, basically made it false. So type there. I believe our header, it also added the react.fc, right? So let's also toggle this back. Oh, I see. Okay, so now it actually created a separate block, whereas before it would use the same block. So now we can go back and forth. Yeah, so you can see right here it added those type safeties, right? So you can see it specified the React, and it also specified the Boolean, and I believe that should be it. So not a lot there, but that is pretty cool actually, because now you're able to quickly. I know for a fact when I go online and I try to look for specific components that are JavaScript, and let's say, for example, I'm working with TypeScript, I think it'd be nice to just simply, transition that over to TypeScript. So I think it's pretty cool that it can do that. So now let's actually switch this out to something a little bit different, right? So let's go Python. I took a Python course in my software engineering course. So let's see how this is able to transition this. Okay, so off the bats, an imported Flask, and it's using a completely different structure, right? So before we were obviously working with Next.js. Next.js is not compatible with Python. So now created it into an HTML doc type. You can see we have our CSS up here. Yeah, so styles, scripts, and our body. So something more akin to a traditional HTML, JavaScript, and CSS file. But obviously you're importing this into a Python Flask. So pretty cool though, that I was able to do that. So you're able to quickly port this stuff into different languages. And then lastly, so let's actually go back to our TypeScript and let's go ahead and do a code review. See what it outputs. So it's commenting. Here we go. Consider using a functional update with set is menu open to ensure you always have the latest state, especially for, okay. Use A tags directly inside a link. Link is no longer necessary with the newer versions. Interesting. That's actually pretty cool, because I actually did not catch that until just now that it's pointing it out, that it's using A tags inside of link. With the new Next.js 14s, you no longer need A tags. You can just simply use the link tag. So it's basically saying to remove those. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Conditional class assignment could be simplified by using the class names library rather than for readability. Which I agree. I don't know why I did that actually. So it's pretty cool that it's actually able to debug itself essentially. And then consider adding keyboard accessibility for on-key press. Yes, that is actually something that, and even my current applications, I'll have users that say, hey, I can't hit enter to, to submit. And so little things like that actually matter. And you don't want to go back to, make sure you're not missing those. Hamburger menu is hidden by default for larger screens. To improve accessibility, adding an area hidden attribute to indicate when it's not visible. Sweet, so it hides the hamburger menu for you. So now that we have this code review, we can now go back to our fix bugs. So let's go ahead and click on that. And now you can see right here, it actually was able to fix those problems that it did over the code review. And you can see right here, now it outputs exactly what we were needing. So earlier, before I was, trying to see if like with the fix bugs or the comments, that it would just simply fix it. But it looks like you need to first do a code review before you actually fix the bugs. So just a note to self. So I'm learning as I'm recording this video with you guys, all right? And it tells you right here on the left corner, updated the set as menu to use a functional update. So if we go up here, yeah, so it looks like it said a preview is not open, is open. So if we actually go back and forth, yeah, before it was just not open. So now it said preview is open, is not open, menu is not open. Remove the A tag. Yeah, so it looks like remove the A tag, just simply using the link for Next.js. Of course, this is the Next.js component. Added class names library for easier conditioning. Oh, interesting. And then lastly, made the hamburger menu accessible. So adding role tab. So did it actually, am I forward? Yeah, I am forward. So before, what did it do? I feel like I'm missing something. So it looks like I'm not sure if it actually applied it. So when you hit apply it down here, it actually has to go through the entire code once again. Yeah, so it looks like it didn't actually apply that. If we go back, yeah, it didn't apply it, even though it stated that it applied it. But now it is. Area hidden, true. Okay, so once again, AI is proving to us that it's not perfect. You want to always verify that even though it stated that it actually did it, it did not that I saw. Everything else it did, it actually ended up going through with it, I believe. But the little things like that, it just did not. So you always want to verify that even though it did a code review and you hit fix bugs, that it actually fixes those bugs for you. But nonetheless, that is pretty much the new Canva in a nutshell. So now let's actually visualize this. Let's actually take this into a Next.js component. So I have cursor opened, and I know you're supposed to make this into a component. I'm not going to do that. I'm just simply going to paste this in right here. Okay, well, let's go ahead and remove all this because it's complaint. I didn't realize it already had the import and all that stuff, fun stuff. So let's go ahead and remove that so it doesn't complain. Okay, so let's see what errors we're getting. So it's saying, cannot find class names declaration. Right, because is it a type? Yeah, it is a type, so it should. All right, maybe this is not the best option. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and create a header component. So we'll just simply, instead of our app, go into components. There we go. We're going to create a header.tsx, and then we'll paste this in here. Yeah, it's not finding the class name declaration, so it shouldn't. And then, okay, so it's saying that we should, because this is a CSS, I guess we should actually technically import this rather than sticking it straight into, and then we can go into the, I mean, I guess we could just do like, what is it, header.css? Is that what it's declaring this is? Yeah, header.module.css. So within the components, which is not the, don't do this. Header.component, I believe, .css, header module.css. So let's go ahead and do that. So hit enter. Let's go ahead and paste this in. There we go. Now it shouldn't be complaining because this is a proper CSS component, and we can ignore that. Okay, and now we can actually import the class. So class name. Well, we don't necessarily have it. Yeah. Fix in a chat. Should we just install that real quickly? That type. Let's go ahead and paste that in. Let's quickly install that declaration so that just doesn't complain anymore. Yeah. Okay. Sweet. So we went ahead and just simply imported our component, and now it should not complain. Okay, well, let's first have to import it as well. So that probably helps. We don't need the Next.js image since we're not really running that directly on here. Now, if we go over to our Next.js application, we should just refresh this and it should show up. So fingers crossed, this looks decent. I have no idea what to expect right now. It's even slow. What's going on? What is it saying now? Expected header.tsx default syntax error. Where's the syntax? So if we look at the terminal, it's saying that it is under this, and it's saying that is it already x and const? What if we just move it up here? Let's do export default. Guys, I think I know what it is. Hold up. I think it's just the way we're importing the header up here. It's not recognizing that it. No. Has no export header. Did you mean to import header instead? It might not. Okay, I found what the issue was. It's saying I probably should be reading this, but it's saying it works as a client component. So in other words, you know, because we are importing a use state, and this is Next.js like we talked about, we need to do a use client. So let's go back to the modules real quickly, and let's go back to our header actually. At the very top, there we go, use client. So this should fix this, and it should work. A tags, please remove the A tag. Did we not fix this? It looks like there's a couple of them actually. So another situation where ChatGPT did not quite fix the link tags. So up here, we did end up switching out the A tags, but when we actually go down further, you'll see right here that there are still A tags that exist in this section. So we actually had to manually, I don't say manually, but let's just go ahead and remove those. Let's go ahead and go up here, log in. There we go. So essentially we just have to go in here and remove each one of these A tags because it's just shouldn't exist there. Let's go ahead and remove that one. And there's one more, so let's go ahead and remove this one as well, just like that. Probably an easier way to do this. Yeah, there we go. So that should work. Okay, finally. Okay, here we go. Now we're up and running. So first and foremost, I specified that I wanted a header, which I guess this is a header. I mean, I guess there's room for a header here with the call to action. So I think it understood that perhaps what I wanted was just a nav bar with the call to action at the same time with the auth states. As you can see, there's no login page because we haven't implemented that, but they are functional. The call to action is hoverable, so it is using like some kind of I guess pretty good CSS. I'm not sure if it's using a component that's already pre-built or an imported one, or just the CSS is set up to where that's hoverable. Landing page also has a default of home, right? So it's root, and everything else has a nice little hoverable effect, right? So it takes you to the features div. It's not bad. It's not bad. So overall, I think that this works, and it did a pretty good job of understanding exactly what I was looking for. Like I said before, I think the only con is that it just doesn't have the preview effect that I would like, right? If, like, let's say for example, we were to take this into Claude, I'm sorry, paste it in, you know, it's just going to give us a preview that instead of having to go all the way through, and like the way we were just struggling, I won't say struggling, but you know, we were having to import everything just to see our components, whereas with artifacts we're just able to see that directly. Typically, I don't know, I actually didn't do it this time. Interesting. Funny enough, again, because it uses Tailwind. I'm a fan of Tailwind, right? I think that it's just cleaner. You can see that we didn't have to like necessarily have to go through the CSS process and import it and all that, like we did with ChatGPT. But I understand that users don't want to use Tailwind, which is not necessarily a con. So I don't see this as a con that it uses, you know, vanilla CSS, whereas Claude prefers Tailwind. But it's just interesting to see, you know, what each one prefers. So this video has probably gone long enough. This was just me kind of looking into GPT-4o with Canvas. And overall, I'll say that I'll continue to play around with this. I think that this is interesting. I do think that the code review is a good function. Overall, it's not perfect, as we saw. There was a couple of mishaps there where it just did not understand, or even though it corrected itself in saying that these changes should happen, it did not. So those are still things to watch out for. And it's always just a good reminder that not to always, trust the AI. It's not perfect, but it is getting better. And I think that this is going to improve in the long run, right? Especially if they come out with new models. So it's good to see that they already have this here. I guess another thing to note, as we know, 3.5 Sonnet is still better at coding than 4o. Not by a huge margin, but it is, I think, noticeable. I do notice it in my coding personally. You can see right here during the code human evaluation, it had about 3.5 Sonnet has about a 92, whereas 4o has about a 90. So that 2% really starts to show through. I really do think in little ways like that. But I do think that this will start to improve over time if it hasn't already. I mean, this is AI after all, right? It's always constantly learning by its data that it's being trained on. So pretty cool. Oh, interesting. You can actually change it. Whoa. You can actually delete stuff on here. Okay, so it is like a notepad. Pretty cool. All right, guys. With that, I'll let you guys go and let me know what you guys think in the comments. All right, see y'all later.